Um, my name is Dwyane Wade. I am super excited about this conversation that I'm lucky enough to be able to moderate, I guess, and be in between. I'm in the midst of some amazing talent, some amazing individuals, and I cannot wait to be able to have this conversation. So I don't know what you guys are looking at, but to my top right, Shaka King, director, amazing writer, amazing producer, and it's important to know that he's nominated for Best Picture and Best Screenplay. That's going to be a common theme throughout here to talk about this film and the things that has been nominated for because it's important. It's important for our community that we understand that. Also, down on my screen to the left is the super talented Daniel Kaluuya. Um, he portrayed Chairman Fred Hampton, and he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. You guys have seen him everywhere. It seems like he's booked and busy. Let's say that. And down to my right is the talented, beautiful. We just had a conversation. Is it HER? Is it her? She says she goes by either, but singer, songwriter, and song that was created for this was nominated for the best original song. And like I said, before we get into the Q&A, it's important for you guys out there to understand that this film marks the first time in Academy history that two black actors from the same film has been nominated. It also it's the most nominations in the set. It becomes the most black nominated film in Academy history with 10 nominations. Before that, we had Color Purple that was nominated 7 times. So this film is breaking records, um, and so it's the first film in the history of Academy Awards to be nominated for Best Picture, where all credited producers are black. So that just shows you guys how important these individuals are and how important this film is. So I want to get to it. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
Hey,
Excellent.
great.
What's up?
Thank you
Happy
for
to
the
be here.
kind words.
Yeah, blessing.
Of course, I feel like we all like going to a different party. We all dress a little different right now. We all showing up to a different event. But that's the beauty of Zoom,
I'm at
man.
a party for one. I'm at a party for one over here.
But I thank you guys for giving me this opportunity. Shaka, I want to start with you. On this film, myself being a kid from the city of Chicago, I was very, I knew a little bit about the story, but I didn't really know the history of it. I didn't really know the history of Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. And his youth in Chicago. I didn't know that he was killed at 21. I didn't know that. It was a lot of things I did not know, and so this film educated a young kid from Chicago. So can you talk about, really going in from the young age and really, giving us a little bit more knowledge and information on this amazing human being?
In many ways, um, I was largely aligned with you in the sense of his was a name I heard growing up.
Yeah.
And actually, in thinking about, being asked, when did you first hear about Chairman Fred? I realized it was probably like around fourth grade. And I remember the person who told me about him just really responded to his bravery, and the fact that he feared nothing. That was something that came up time and time again. It's something that
Mm.
Bobby Rush often talks about. Um, and yeah, it's I really did learn about his life. I'd heard a decent amount of how he had been, assassinated and murdered, but I knew absolutely nothing about the way he lived. And it was in researching this film and writing, the screenplay with my co-writer Will Burson that I really learned a lot about him. And so um, I think in some ways the who knows, perhaps in some ways that kind of served the movie in the sense of it be my introduction to him also being a great introduction into this history, but just an introduction, you know. Um,
Yeah. Speaking of that, going off that, Daniel, I was told that you met Chairman Fred Jr. With his mama prior to shooting this film. I mean, I would love to hear about like what you guys discussed and like what was their perception, about having something like this, after over 50 years, finally come to light.
It was a very interesting meeting. It was like 8 hours long. And they they were just asking us why we were telling the story. What is it about us as people? What's our intentions? And my mama Akua got me to the side and asked me what I felt the meaning of art was, and was just looking at us from that perspective. I can't actually remember specifically what I said. It was a very intense room, but I know
Hmm.
I found out a lot about the people that I was working with, just on a real level. It wasn't like we was talking about, oh, this is why we see Chairman Fred, this is what we do. It's just like, this is who we are. This is who I am as a person, as a spirit. So that was intense. And yeah, it was just it was I thought it was just an honor to kind of to sit down with them and have them partnering up with them, because I feel like a lot of people have attempted to make this, and I feel like I
Hmm.
got the energy for them. I could be more quick to answer on this front, but I got the energy to them that they weren't willing to compromise if in terms of joining forces, if they felt it didn't the narrative didn't consider them and their perspective and what they wanted for the film and what their intentions were. So it was amazing that we managed to kind of get everyone to join hands on this.
Yeah. And that's very important. We see a lot of things that come out, and the person that it's about or the family don't have any say so in it, and it becomes tough for them. So it's amazing that you had that opportunity to do that.
Mm.
Uh, Her fight for you. Please tell me, how did this amazing song come together?
Oh my gosh. Well, Archie from RCA hit me and was like, "Hey, we want you to be part of this film." And I was able to speak to Shaka briefly about like the mood and kind of the what he wanted me to add to the film, because I always think that music is supposed to add to the message and add to the story. It's not supposed to just be in the background. It's not supposed to just sit in it. I think my responsibility was to just bring out the story. So we talked about it being hopeful and not being sad, because I could have easily made like a sad ballad because it was a very tragic story, but yeah, I listened to a lot of Marvin Gaye and Curtis Mayfield,
Hmm.
and that's like my favorite era of music. I always wish I was born in that time, but yeah, I listened to the late '60s, early '70s, and I started thinking about the themes after I watched the movie and how everybody was kind of fighting for something, and Fred Hampton wasn't just fighting for Black people; he was fighting for so many different communities, and the idea that it's kind of our responsibility even today with everything that we're seeing to continue the work that he was doing, and how young he was and how empowering that is, even me as a 23-year-old woman not even knowing that he was 21. He was 21 when he passed away, and I didn't know that till I watched the film. So I just felt so empowered, and I felt like, okay, as long as I'm standing, I'm always going to fight for my people. I'm always going to fight for what's right. And that was kind of how the song came about.
Yeah, I think you just hit on something important, and Shaka, you definitely could speak to this. But I think we all was educated on so much in the film. Even the Black Panther Party, and it was the original name was called. You know, it was a Black Panther Party for self defense. That the Black Panthers was put together. They was created for more than just to wear all black and stand there with their fists up. They was created to challenge police brutality and dedicated to social transformation and all these amazing things that this group was put together that I didn't even know that it was an ongoing community-based program to feed the poor and provide health care. Can you talk a little bit about that, Shaka, and what that meant and why you made sure to pour that out as well?
Well, I mean, for starters, just because it's the truth. Um, but I think, even further because for so long, we've been told another story about who the Black Panthers were, what their politics were. I think even what was, interesting to discover in researching the film, even in reading texts that um, were aligned with the Black Panthers ideologically, and the writers, were really in love with the Black Panthers. I would find that when I spoke with, actual Black Panther alum, a lot of that information would be contradicted.
Hmm.
And so, it just it was A, to reflect just the truth, but also I think to counter a lot of the propaganda that had been put forth. Not only by the FBI, but just again misinformation that had been put out there. Uh, so
So Daniel, me and my wife was one of the lucky few to be able to get an opportunity to see this film early, and the "I am revolutionary" speech. Like we were grabbing each other, we were holding each other arms because it was such a powerful moment. The words were so powerful, man. So can you talk about how did you prepare for that moment? How did you channel, Chairman Fred in that moment?
I think it's just like well, I didn't really have a lot of time. I was it was challenging because I went and did Queen and Slim press for a week
Mm,
before that speech, so that was my first day back. So kind of luckily, I didn't have time to really get into my head about it. Just said all that time was to learn lines and do my job in press, and then but it's in those moments, it's like all the work you've done beforehand shows up. You know what I'm saying? All the things that you've kind of done beforehand, and you just gotta like not be in your head. I used to have this term when I started acting doing improvisation, and I had this term is like when you once you're in your head, you're dead. So
mm,
when I show up and as myself, and it's like the energy and the emotion that I'm engaging with, if I've got confidence or I just feel ready, that's because I've done the work. And I just forget. I have to consciously forget about all the work you've done. And then when you're there in that moment, you're saying these words, and all the background artists are being amazing. It was like 450 in it, Shaka, 450 people being incredible.
yeah,
And then like you just got to show up and let it go through you. You know what I'm saying? And then
hmm
whatever happens, kind of happens. And I kind of always love that energy in acting when it feels like you've just got that idea as opposed to premeditating it and going, oh, this, and I want to say this on this line. To be real, I don't even remember the takes of the whole film.
mm.
Like, I don't
You
remember
blacked
the
out.
takes because I was just present. I was just present. I was there. And that's the only way I knew I could um, forgive myself
Mm,
after it when watching it. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I can beat myself up when I watch things. Do you know what I'm saying? Whilst
hmm
if I'm present, I'll say that's how I felt. I did all that I
Right.
could, and that's how I felt in
Yeah.
that moment. I can stand on that. So that's where it was more so. But it was a really special moment, really special moment, and the people of Cleveland really lifted the scene in a real
Yeah.
way, which was incredible.
Yeah. The audience was incredible. I mean, it was just phenomenal. Her, when you got approached with this, opportunity to be a part of this project, obviously, when you agreed to write a song, what did you think, or what did you hope that this film would do, to be a part of this film? Like, how would people, what did you feel that people may get from this film, and you wanted to portray in the song that you wrote, at the same time?
Well, number one is, like Shaka said, was the truth because I didn't learn this in school, and I know nobody really did. And I think that it's such an important part of our Black history. And I knew a little bit about the Panthers, but like you said, the narrative has been changed and flipped so much. So I really was looking forward to people seeing the Black Panthers in a different light. And even with the song kind of blending, that era of music, even with now, and even blending that message that applies to then and also applies to now, and just bringing the two worlds together. Because I think, common misconception, in the younger generation is that, oh, that was, such a long time ago, and we're so disconnected from that part of history because of our schools. And for me, I've always believed that knowledge is power, and I think it's really going to empower, and it already has been. And I think 2020 was an awakening, but it's really going to change the minds of young people, and empower them, and let them know that they have so much more of a voice. And I think we're seeing that now, but I think this movie is really, it is really, really empowering to see. It really is.
It is. Shaka. So I am very involved in, in community, man. I'm very involved in a lot of programs, and what is education, health. It's all about social betterment for children. And Chairman Fred, he revolutionized similar communities that we're still trying to help and we're still trying to do. And this was in the '60s, so which was perceived then by the FBI as a larger threat than potential for any violence by the Black Panther Party, right? So can you explain why, in your perspective, why it was it's perceived as a larger threat?
I think that it's funny because I think the main reason they were considered a threat is because they were so effective at feeding poor people, building medical clinics, starting clothing and coat drives,
Hmm.
busing loved ones of incarcerated men to prisons to visit their families, just creating social programs that were impactful and that swung the people and the masses onto their side and believing in the things that they believed in. And I think that the government recognized that as long as that was happening, there was an opportunity for people to also recognize that the government wasn't doing those things, and that if they weren't doing those things, they should be obsolete. And so
Hmm.
I think that was what made the Panthers even a greater threat than um, their belief in protecting themselves, by any means necessary.
Yeah, yeah. Daniel, like, just we will never know, but can you try to walk us through, your experience when you first read the script, and like, how did you come up? How did you map out, the way you was gonna play this character, the way you were gonna play, Chairman Fred? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, when I first read it, I was I didn't really read the film the first time I read it, the script. I just was blown away by Chairman Fred, and blown away by his words, blown away by how he thought, blown away by what he did, and just I was just like, this doesn't even. Wow, I was just really taken aback by him. And then I read it again, and then I could read it as a film. I think I had the foundation to kind of really take it in as a story, and I was just in shock that I didn't know this. Do you know what I'm saying? I was just in shock that like the story that was. I was like, why doesn't this is so? What's happened? Do you know what I'm saying? So, and then in terms of attempting chairman and going towards in that direction, it was a lot of work. Um, Luckily, I had quite a bit of time, and Shaka was amazing with sharing all the stuff that he had come across, and he gave me the Black Panther reading list. In order to be a fully fledged Panther, you need to go on 6 weeks of political education. So I read the majority of the books on that. Then I was reading those books and I realized that, Daniel, you just got to you got to now focus on chairman. You know what I mean? You can't keep in the theoretical space. And then I worked with Audrey Lacroix, my dialect coach, to kind of go towards the voice. Actually, I had 4 days with Shaka before that, where we just did the speeches, and we did a couple of the scenes, which was invaluable because I hadn't done any work on the voice, and we just did it, and kind of I felt like, oh, okay, this is where I'm at, you know. And it kind of, when you just do it, you get over the real hump, and then yeah, I dialect, but then I made a decision that it wasn't an impersonation, it was an interpretation. And then I said I just got to stand on that. Then I realized that in certain elements of days, I'm in a play and everyone else is in a film, and the demands on my voice is intense. You know, doing those speeches for 12 hours, like, you know, you're an athlete, like any muscle. You do work out for 12 hours at full tilt. It's gonna, you know, hell, you know that as well. I mean, it's gonna, your vocal cords are gonna really decline the power of them. So I met opera singing coach because I saw Chairman Fred sonically occupy the space the way opera singers occupy the space. And so I kind of went there and I sang songs, I sang gospel songs, I sang songs from that era that felt like Chairman Fred. Then I would do the speeches and I really approached them like songs as opposed to, I saw it as a talking version of singing as opposed to the singing version of talking. And then, yeah, watching a lot of these speeches and going, all right, I want to move people the way I feel moved watching this. And then, yeah, taking up smoking, reading a bunch. I went to Cleveland. I came to Cleveland. Yeah, take up smoking. Yeah, because it's a texture of the voice that I couldn't get to. There's a texture of the voice that I couldn't get to. So I would start smoking. Also, it always annoys me when I see actors that don't smoke trying to smoke on screen. So I always want to feel like it's second nature. Do you know what I'm saying? So there was that. And then I think I just went Cleveland before the shoot and I just locked myself away and I had this great dissertation and all this stuff. I went Chicago, and went Maywood and went to these old schools, these old homes. I just had all this information that kind of streamline it and then do my own script work. And then it's a summation of everything, but it's kind of like you're just kind of following your nose. It's like a treasure hunt, in that sense, how I kind of approach it.
I love that. So Fight for You, you know, when you listen to it, it gives you that, you know, revolutionary sound of the 1960s. And you talked about artists like Marvin Gaye being an inspiration. Can you tell us what about, you know, the tone of that time or his music that gave you the inspiration when it came to writing this song?
Well, to me, you know, that era of music, even listening to like Sly and the Family Stone, it was like a new way to express a different kind of pain. Something that is so painful. I think there's beauty in it, and how much joy, and how joyful they made the music at that time, even though they were talking about real struggle and real pain and what it means to be Black, but also talking about the beauty of what it means to be Black, and just the beauty in the struggle sometimes. And I think that is really why I love that era of music, because it's still so painful. It's like it strikes like a different chord and there's so much feeling, but it makes you feel so good and makes you want to move a different way. And it's, you know, it's cookout music and it's music you listen to when you just want to dance, but there's a real message behind it. And I think it's so powerful when music feels that way. So yeah, I think that was that time, you know, where we were saying real lyrics, but it felt so good. And sometimes you were just singing the words, not even realizing the power in the words that you were singing. And that's kind of what I wanted to tap into.
I love that. Shaka, I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times, but how did you decide to tell a story through the lens of those two men? Like, what made you go in the way you did, and with you guys, I know it's a team effort. What made all you guys go the way you guys did with those two men?
Well, I mean, it was baked into the pitch that the Lucas brothers brought my way. And what I thought was very clever about it was that I recognized, just, knowing how the industry and the town works, that that was really the only way that you could get a movie about this man and these ideas made, within the
Yeah,
studio system. And it was such a big story. The only way to tell it was within the studio system because it was too large in scope to make for an independent budget. So it started out a necessity, but then, once you cross that bridge, and you're making it because it is a political film. So you have
yeah,
to tie that framework into the choice. You have to tie that framework or connect that framework to the politics of the movie. So then it became about, well, the best way to, like, for me, especially if in a lot of ways, you're introducing not just this history, but a lot of these ideas to people for the first time, right? So, like,
mm,
when he's talking about, socialism is the people, well, how do I even know what that looks like if I don't know what the opposite of it looks like? So,
Mm.
in many ways, it made a lot of sense to also make William O'Neill a central character because it's an opportunity to show who Hampton is by contrasting him to who he was not.
yeah,
Um, and so the movie, it's a bit of sleight of hand that we play because people think it's from William O'Neill's perspective because we use that interview as a framing device. But and the truth of the matter is that most of the time you're with Chairman Fred, the story is from Deborah Johnson's perspective.
mm,
You meet him through her eyes. You view his assassination through her eyes. You learn about him as a man as opposed to as a leader through her eyes, and through her interactions with him. And so, yeah, that's why.
yeah, man, that's awesome. And we got some Q&A coming in from the audience, so I'm gonna try to get to those as they come in. So one more question before I go to Q&A. Daniel, back on the tell me what this means to you. You can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution. What does that line mean to you?
Hmm. There's things that are eternal. You know what I mean? The things that are eternal that transcends our body, transcends like what our temporary stay on this earth. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's what it means to me. Um, but also a revolution for me is like, as within, so without. So how I see it is like is an internal revolution is key. You feel me? It's about
yeah,
excavating everything within you. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where the virus is. In terms of it's how you police yourself, how you police others close to you on the basis of your skin color. Once you get rid of that, then your world changes. You know what I'm saying? So
mm,
if you come in with that energy and you actually occupy that energy space, like I think Chairman Fred did, look, we're 52 years later, we're still talking about it. That's what that means. He can't kill it. You know what I mean?
mm,
He was right.
yeah, yeah. That's powerful, man. All right, we got some questions coming in from the audience. First question to you, Shaka. So, talk about the process working with the actors.
You know,
Tell the truth,
I
Shaka.
always say, like, it's really easy to, it's easy to win the chip when you got the 97 Bulls, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I was just Phil Jackson out here. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, it's easy, dog. It's just, you cast well. One of my old directing teachers, shout out Jose Santana, he used to say, like, casting is like 99.9% of the job.
Mm,
So what you do is you cast correctly, and then you figure out what each actor needs to do their best work. And every actor is different in terms of, what they desire. Like Daniel likes clarity, you know, and he needs clarity. He needs to know like what he's doing, what you're asking him to do, and why you're asking him to do it, and it has to be clear for him, Lakeith needs
Sounds
space.
like me.
Lakeith needs space. Like not, and he's not. It's not that he is asking for it, but you just know, like, give him a little bit of breathing room, because he's a lefty, so like he's just gonna get funky with it. You know what I mean? And you want that. Jesse needs less words. Just like get rid of the words for him. Dominique needs to really shape her character with you, because if she does that, then your character is going to be better than what you wrote. And all of these actors need that too. But like, so it's just like you kind of figure out what every person needs to do their best work, and then you just try to provide that as best you can, and then get out of their way because they're great.
Mm-hmm. For sure. That sound like you sound like a coach. You sound like a coach for real. You do sound like Phil Jackson. Because as players, we like, yeah, like we do this. Y'all get out the way.
Yeah, man. Y'all do this.
Give us the game plan and move out the way. Next question, Daniel. They say, how long did it take to film, Judas and the Black Messiah, and what was one of your biggest challenges, while on set?
I think it's like 41 days, right, Shaka? That was a 41-day shoot.
Yeah.
41 days. I think it was quite intense because I was promoting Queen and Slim at the same time. So on the weekends I was off in some other city. And what's the second part of the question again, Dwyane?
The second part was just, what was the biggest challenges while on set?
The biggest challenge is I think the 50-year anniversary was a huge day. Do you know what I'm saying? It was like the 50th anniversary of his assassination. And there was the scene that we did the poisoning. And I always strive to kind of leave the outside world away from the set. Like it's like when we're doing a set, we're just people telling the story, playing the character. So we're telling the story. You have to occupy the space in order for people to connect with it more. It's what I really want. But that day, the outside world just came in, and then all these feelings that you had about Chairman Fred and about what happened, and the fact that we was in the house, we was in the mock-up of the house on that day, and I was dressed as him, and it was and Lakeith was going through it. It was a huge day. It was the first first days where my emotions were attempted to take over the scene and the day. And I'd never experienced that before. I never experienced like being in my own way in a real way. So I was like, instead of trying to like resist it, and I had to accept it and kind of and use it to for the scene, But it was challenging, man. It was really challenging, and I just became aware of how much Chairman Fred meant to me, and how much this project means to me. It's just sometimes you could just I'm very happy being unconscious about a lot of things. Sometimes it's kind of I think one of my gifts is I can be really ignorant about certain things. So I was like, I go in there and do my thing, and then go home. But you just became aware, and it was challenging to keep clear and keep focused on continuing telling this part of the story.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Wow. Her, can you, we all know that us as the talent, I guess, that's in front, we get a lot of credit for, things, but it takes a team, it takes a group, to really accomplish great things. And can you talk about the songwriters and the collaboration on the song? And I don't want to mess none of their names up, because I know one of them is pronounced a little different. So can you talk about, that process with them?
Absolutely. Well, D-Mile, who produced it, and
D-Mile.
Tiara Thomas, who wrote it with me. They're like my family. I've known them both since I was like 15 years old. And so I called them in because they just get it. Musically, they get it. And lyrically, they're just willing to push. And musically, D-Mile is so talented, and he also has a love for that, that era of music. So I figured this is like the perfect group, to collaborate on. And we were already working on my album, so yeah, they're amazing. Me and Tiara, we go back and forth so much. Like, what about this? I think we can challenge that line. Let's do this. And what are the themes, and what is the feeling, and how do we describe what this feels like? And when I say something like, I think it's this, she's like, those are the lyrics right there, exactly what you just said. So it's like a lot of like, oh, okay, yes, this feels real. And me and D-Mile going back and forth on the bass, that is like one of my favorite things to do, is jam. And that's what he loves to do as well. And he just really nailed those drums and yeah, brought it to a different place. So yeah, that's like my family, D-Mile and Tiara.
Oh, vibes. Can I hang out with you guys? I just want to know. Is that okay?
Sure, anytime.
Sound like y'all have a vibe. So the
Yeah.
last question from the audience goes to you, Daniel. It say, how does having 3 Black producers and a Black director change the experience for the cast and crew when making a story about a time in Black history?
You feel safe to give all of yourself. You know what I'm saying? You feel safe. You feel like people understand the perspective. You know what I'm saying? Even the fact that they prioritize getting the family involved in the way that they got the family involved. You just feel like you feel safe. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, yeah, we're doing things in a principled way that just aligns with my values. Um, and yeah, you just a group of men that get it. Like, and a group of people that get it. You just feel comfortable in doing it. And you see all the decisions in the rollout. Like, look at the soundtrack; it's incredible. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like that's part of it as well. It's just everything aligns because everyone's seeing it from the same perspective, as opposed to someone coming in and going, "No, we think this, we think that," because it makes them feel comfortable, because they want to have their point of view or their perspective a part of the process, and that can take away. I just feel there's no back and forth in that sense. If I speak to Shaka about script or something, or speak to Ryan, or speak to Charles about something, it's just like they get it. I mean, I don't have to like translate in any way, shape, or form, and I feel like you can really feel it on screen, those decisions, and like even in casting and like who they got to do hair or this, it's just everything is coming from their perspective, coming from our perspective.
Yeah. Well, I just, thank you guys. I mean, we can keep going, but time has come to an end. But I just want, before I leave, I just want us to once again reiterate those points that I talked about in the beginning. So everybody know how important this is. That Judas and the Black Messiah is a milestone, for Black filmmaking, both in front and behind the camera. So this is an opportunity for Black filmmakers to reclaim history. This film, once again, in the history of the Academy Awards, is to be nominated. This is the first Black film to be nominated for Best Picture, where all credited producers are Black. Like, this is a moment in time, and this is history. And so, once again, man, Shaka and the whole team, you guys, for the record straight on an amazing time in Black history. And I think we all walking around a little proud, knowing the real story of the Black Panthers and Chairman Fred. So thank you guys for taking the time to sit down and have a little combo, man. Appreciate it for all 3 of you guys.
Thank you, Dwyane. Thank you, Dwyane. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
Dwyane.
No doubt.